I want to smoke to, oh yeah, I want to self-sabotage. Happy Friday, my friends. I'm just walking back from the gym now. Just had a couple morning sessions, did some video feedback. Tried to get some reading in, but just always had something to do. We just ran into Jamie on our walk home for the day. Gave us some goods. So I'll give Lucy some when we get home here. But yeah, I'm gonna chill out because I really want to read and I just want to take some time to myself here. And we're gonna do our book review today, which is going to be on The Body Keeps the Score. So a very highly requested book. Kind of a scary book in certain ways. Scary in a very eye-opening kind of way. It's gonna be a little bit of a heavy one, which, Merry Christmas. Here's a book review on The Body Keeps the Score. Thank you very much, Jamie. This spoiled doggo obviously needed more treats. So, yeah, are these for you? From Jamie? She's unsure, she's never had that one before. Okay, I need to shower. I feel pretty irritable today, I'm not gonna lie. Just checking in, being my authentic self, but there was a little bit of a situation in the corner. One of the members brought his dog in and I told him that Lucy wasn't very friendly in the corner, and it's just because this one husky went after her one time in the corner, so she's always been a little bit just defensive of it, especially the toys. And I don't know if it was just irritability around the fact that this member just didn't listen to me. I don't know why he didn't. Wasn't anything major, but Lucy did kind of lash out at his dog, and I was just like, dude, like, I told you not to come in this corner, but it is what it is. Either way, I'm done work for the day. So I'm gonna shower, since I haven't yet today. It's a little bit of a rush start this morning, which is probably kind of amplifying some of this irritability. Then I'm gonna finish The Obstacle Is the Way, like I've wanted to. Is that good? You devoured that. And then we're gonna do Body Keeps the Score. Okay, so I've got my synopsis here written all up for The Body Keeps the Score. I'm like, trying So I think I'm just gonna record this tomorrow, or attempt to record this tomorrow. Again, I have it all written up, but every time I try and get into it, I get super distracted, and either there's a Nova Scotian yelling, or there's a 2-year-old child yelling something. So apologies, but I'm just gonna attempt this tomorrow. It's adorable, but it's loud. All right, everybody, it is 8:45 p.m. I went upstairs to take Lucy for a walk. It's like pretty quiet now. So I texted Kayla, and they are at the next door neighbor's house for a party. So that means we have time to do our book summary of The Body Keeps the Score. Hell of a book. So we're gonna use this quiet time now because these Nova Scotians are here for 10 days. So we're gonna make the most of our quiet time. And we're gonna do some Body Keep the Score book summary here. So this is a very heavy book. If you're going to read this book, just be aware it's a very triggering book. I would honestly suggest that you actively be working with a psychologist, working with a counselor, making sure that you have support to be reading something like this. It's very heavy. If you've been through any sort of sexual assault, anything along those lines, it's very, very triggering. So just trigger warning. However, in my opinion, this book should be a required read for everyone. Breaks down in detail the enormous impact that trauma, particularly in childhood, has on everyone. This includes what the body does over time when we hold on to stress and the shame of trauma. This has a very high correlation to things like cancer, autoimmune, gut issues, and so many more. The author is Bessel van der Kolk. Hopefully I said that properly. Bessel is a psychiatrist that came of age before trauma was a diagnosable condition. He was one of the pioneers in trauma research, out by treating Vietnam veterans at the VA hospital, and he quickly determined that trauma not only affects veterans and survivors of disasters, it also affects the victims of childhood trauma. Later elaborates that trauma in general, not necessarily just childhood trauma. There are terrifying numbers of people impacted by this. A quarter of all war veterans develop PTSD. 1 out of every 6 women has experienced the R word. I can't say it because I think YouTube will flag that. Or attempted R word. half of those occurred before the age of 15. 3 million reports are made of child abuse each year, and those are just the numbers that are actually reported. Many times, these individuals are not only haunted by what has happened to them, but also what they may have done to survive, whether this be a veteran or a child who has experienced trauma. So this book is very elaborate. Truthfully, I'm not going to be doing this justice, so I would suggest you get it. But Bessel goes into all of the neurobiology involved in trauma, including the nervous system, the brain, and the role of stress hormones. He also talks about the issues of the medical model, which is based on the question, what is wrong with you? Trauma-sensitive institutions are now beginning to ask the question of what happened to you instead. And actually, on that note, another fantastic book that we'll use for a different book summary is the book by Bruce Perry, who's also a psychiatrist, which is literally titled, What Happened to You? Bessel goes on to describe that because of these 4 fundamental truths, throwing prescription drugs at this problem is not particularly helpful because 1, humans can hurt each other, but they can also heal each other. And I'll elaborate on these later. 2, we heal in community by feeling safe enough to interact. 3, our body's natural systems can calm us down. 4, policy changes and social conditions need to be changed that perpetuate that trauma. It goes on to describe that traumatic memories are not stored the same way that regular memories are. Normal memories are stored with a beginning, a middle, and an end. Traumatic memories are stored like a shard of glass. Each shard is an emotional or a sensory experience, such as scents, visions, and sounds. People who have been traumatized can have flashbacks or triggers out of the blue, and these will make them feel like the trauma is happening right now in the present moment. Even when they are not experiencing that terror, they are like a house with the smoke detectors constantly going off. They're stressed out, irritable, and always on high alert, and they can get stuck in that place of hypervigilance. Conversely, some people, in an effort to make this state less terrifying, shut down any of their senses so that experiences are distant, hazy, and flat. That coping strategy also deadens their ability to experience positive emotions like joy, love, and connection. How trauma is stored is one of the main themes of this book, and in some instances, our body's response to fear can be so triggering that just trying to avoid those bodily sensations can cause panic attacks. People can also shut down feeling certain parts of their body in response to trauma. If you have been subjected to repeated trauma, wouldn't it be better just to not feel those areas of your body at all? As a result, some survivors can't feel whole areas of their body, including the good feelings that can be associated with it. If you can't receive feelings from your body, then it's almost impossible to make good decisions for yourself. After all, our body is what tells us that a stove is too hot and it's going to burn us, when we're standing in water and it's cold, and when an exercise is causing pain rather than just discomfort that it should be. Not receiving those signals shuts down our abilities to react well to our environment. In order to heal from trauma, we have to reconnect with our body and all of the negative and positive sensations, and then you can actively direct what happens to your body itself. An entire section in the book in childhood attachment theory, which includes a disorganized attachment, which is a result of being scared of your primary caregiver. He discusses the tragic impact of incest and how dramatically underestimated the incidence of incest was and is and has been happening for so long. He then goes on to talk about what trauma looks like in children, all of the misdiagnoses these children receive, and the DSM committee's rejection for this type of complex childhood trauma, which he and his colleagues named developmental trauma. Many of the coping strategies used by trauma survivors were based out of necessity, but they usually involve shutting down from people, shutting down physical and emotional feelings, which are all things which are necessary for overall well-being. 4 strategies that Bessel talks about healing through trauma include 1, getting calm, could involve breath, yoga, meditation, and other forms of mindfulness which are soothing. 2 is maintaining calm. Amidst big emotions, we need to find ways to summon the parasympathetic nervous system to bring us back into balance even when we are stressed, angry, or scared. Number 3 is be present and engaged. Find ways to be fully alive and in the present moment. This is where we can involve synchronous or rhythmic activities, singing, playing an instrument, dancing, sports, and above all, playing. This is something that is commonly missed in childhood trauma survivors. 4 is no secrets. Secrets are corrosive. Try not to keep secrets from yourself or from others. Even things you may feel shame about, which might include things you needed to do in order to survive. Practices that can help with this include journaling, talk therapy in many forms, EMDR, which Bessel talks a lot about in this book, psychedelic therapy, and others. Near the end of the book, Bessel makes a plea that we need to treat trauma differently than we have been. And we need to train anyone working with children about trauma and how to recognize its various ways of presenting itself. We need to understand that childhood trauma is one of the largest public health issues and needs to be funded and worked on accordingly. Just like with the myth of normal, I'm going to finish off with 3 really impactful quotes. And the reason I chose these 3 specific quotes because they really tie in everything I just talked about in the summary itself. Traumatized people chronically feel unsafe inside their bodies. The past is alive in the form of gnawing interior discomfort. Their bodies are constantly bombarded by visceral warning signs, and in an attempt to control these processes, they often become experts at ignoring their gut feelings and in numbing awareness of what is played out inside. They learn to hide from themselves. As long as you keep secrets and suppress information, you are fundamentally at war with yourself. The critical issue is allowing yourself to know what you know. This takes an enormous amount of courage. And lastly, being able to feel safe with other people is probably the single most important aspect of mental health. Safe connections are fundamental to meaningful and satisfying lives. That is the summary of The Body Keeps a Score. This is a really, really thick and heavy book. Everything I just said there is kind of just the overarching theme of this book. I would still suggest you go and get this book. It is an incredible read. I mentioned this earlier today, but it's almost scary when you start to see and hear some of the statistics within the book itself. And overall, it's just quite sad. And it really does paint a picture for anyone who you may know in your life who has been burdened with cancer, autoimmune, various other health ailments. In my opinion, makes you rather curious about what they may be hiding, what they've gone through in their life. And it also makes you much more compassionate for those around you. And this was one of the first books I read a couple of years ago that really started to shift my thinking and really made me want to start working on myself and getting to know myself on a much more fundamental level. My mom has Crohn's. I don't know if I've talked about this on this channel, but knowing some of the things that have come up in my own family, not knowing the things that she's dealt with as a kid, she was the youngest of 5 brothers. 3 of her brothers ended up in jail. My mom probably, unfortunately, dealt with some pretty severe and heavy things in her own childhood that likely have been suppressed for a long, long time. And it does make me quite sad. So this was a pretty eye-opening book for me to read. I mentioned this book by Bruce Perry, What Happened to You. We're going to do it a different week, but it's very much in line with very similar takeaways from the book. That is our book review of the week. So apologies that it's going to be probably posted around 10 o'clock here, but I just didn't want to do it with a bunch of screaming in the background because this is a pretty heavy book and I didn't want everyone to be distracted. Hopefully that wasn't too wordy. I think everyone following along these book reviews is intellectual enough that you want sort of depth behind this. You guys would be scrolling TikTok if you didn't want that. So I appreciate y'all following along who are appreciating the book reviews so far. So you guys are gems. I'm going to talk about this a little bit tomorrow, but the urge to self-sabotage really came up today. I mentioned earlier, just kind of a little bit of irritation throughout the day, waking up a little bit late, being a little bit rushed in the morning, like Lucy kind of lashing out at that dog. I ended up taking a couple hours this afternoon just to kind of chill out a little bit, finish my book, and then did the whole summary for this. Couldn't record it when I wanted to just because of the noise, and there was just a lot of weird urges to self-sabotage. I am proud of myself for just kind of sitting with it, distracting myself in a much more healthy way, aka I didn't go to the weed store and go self-sabotage. But it's interesting kind of recognizing now, when the urge to smoke comes up, I've kind of now shifted the labeling of oh yeah, I want to smoke to, oh yeah, I want to self-sabotage. Because I know that if I go smoker now, that's actually a form of self-sabotage for me, and I don't want to do that. So, interesting shift in terminology, and in my opinion, a pretty powerful shift in terminology. So, that's it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed the book. Let me know what you think of the summary here. If you haven't read The Body Keeps a Score, I recommend it. But I'm going to wrap this up here. So, if you enjoyed this, please let me know in the comments. Like, share, comment, subscribe, do all those good things for the algorithm. We are getting close to 300 subscribers, baby, and almost 250 hours of watch time, which is pretty cool. Log number 60, which is pretty wild. So, okay, I'm done. Good night. Bye-bye.